Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Marbles on the Street podcast.
Hello.
Today's Friday, and today
It
we
is
have
Friday. Yes, it is.
Spooo and StandardDamage. uh, so
How'd you get there?
today we're talking about. Well, what do we talk about on this cast? Actually, we talk about all kinds of stuff. Marble
We talk
stuff.
about all kinds of stuff.
We talk about streaming stuff. But today we're going to dive into a little bit of preparation about being self-destructive to, like, during your streams and stuff like that, or afterwards, mental state, and a little bit more of a interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Things that might drive you to streaming, things that might make you feel like you had a good stream or a bad stream, and why that means something, or what it is and why it is that way for you. Because I think everybody's is different. So for what kind of motivates them to go live, or what is the reasoning for maybe my stream just didn't feel good for whatever reason. And then not taking that, or taking that to heart in the right way, rather than taking it to heart and being like, man, that was terrible, I'm going to bring myself down. And then the next stream ends up being bad,
Right.
rather than internalizing it and trying to boost you up. Like, how can I do better? Which is what you want to do. A lot of people will end up self-destructing in a sense and bringing themselves down about not having a good stream, quote unquote.
Right, you can tie up your mind with the negative as opposed to just using it to just keep moving forward, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of it comes from understanding what drives you. And everybody, this is something that I've been thinking a lot on recently when it comes to this kind of thing, is how are you measuring your success? This has come up a few different times over the past week, including interviews, things like that, what like in the beginning, what everybody starts looking at, like when they talk about whether they had a good stream or a bad stream, they start talking about their numbers right off the bat. And over time, that changes.
Right.
You begin to understand that a lot of it is about the success isn't measured in the numbers. The success is measured in interaction. It's measured in lasting relationships that you form with your community, things like that. And that's something that happens over time. I've watched, streamers have absolutely fantastic streams, like amazing streams, but then they get down on it because they only had like 55 people in the chat with them. It's like, dude, your stream was lit
Right.
the whole time. Don't let the number throw that, and that's that right there, that thinking right there is one of a few different ways that you can start to fall into that trap.
Right.
Is you're being successful, but because you're in your mind, you're looking for
You
one
expect
particular
more or
goal.
something.
Yeah, you're looking for one particular goal. You're focused on that instead of all the other success that you're having.
Yeah.
And that's that's a really, really, really key way to make sure that you avoid that. Is don't look at that. Look at everything. Look at how that particular stream went holistically.
Right.
And the things that you didn't like, it's okay. You're gonna do it again. You can work on that stuff, but make sure that you're also celebrating your successes, and that really helps keep from bringing you down.
I think something that's huge. I think. Well, I don't do a lot of it, and I know a lot of us want to do more of it. But when you're at that point of around, 50 or 55 viewers, and you're wondering, you're like, man, I feel like I'm stuck. I feel like I'm doing so well, I'm kicking ass, but I'm not getting any more viewership. That's when you need to start realizing you need to hit other outlets so that people can find you, type of a thing. So instead of taking that and getting frustrated as why aren't there more people in here? I deserve more than that. Take and be like, I need to show this to more people.
Yeah.
How can I show this to more people and get them in here and hanging out with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can attest that really closely with marbles, actually, from the game standpoint. is like if we got loud with it a year or even a year and a half ago, it was not in the state to be ready to receive a large amount of people, right?
Right.
So like, but now I feel it's ready, right? So also having your like being confident in your own product and being ready for that moment is also, I think, very important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you figure out how to give people a softer landing place along the way. And that's really important. That's really important. Like when you begin to, the deeper down the rabbit hole you go, you begin to realize that there are certain things that need to be in place. Like, I wish I had had a better Discord. I wish I had had a more active Twitter. Right now, and we were talking about this, before we got started today, with so many people home right now, as streamers, we're really spoiled in terms of numbers and in terms of how people are able to be with us and how long, more specifically, how long they're able to be with us. And when we get on the other side of this virus and we get on the other side of social distancing, we got to realize that not only are things going to go back to normal, but they're also probably going to be more exaggerated than they would normally be, because people are just going to be getting back into their routines. They're going to just be getting back into going to work if they were working from home, which is a different dynamic, as we all know. And so they're going to have even less time than they normally would. So
Right.
We're going to see like if this is where we're at right now, we're going to see it do this in a big way, and then it'll come back and just kind of get back to normal. But the point I want to make from all that is exactly what the two of you were just talking about, and that is, if you're not out there on other outlets, if you're not working right now to build other outlets so that you can continue to reach people, you're not doing it right now. You got to make sure you do that. Your main focus needs to be on Twitch, absolutely, because you're getting a lot of discovery that way,
Right.
just by broadcasting. Just know that it's not going to continue to ride that wave. People need to be able to find you other places. You need to basically be, this is something I went through a few months ago myself. You need to basically be on demand. So people need to be able to find those fun little tweets from you. They need to be able to have access to a YouTube video or two, that kind of thing.
Right.
Just so they can be with you when they can't be with you.
Right. And it's so important. It's like that's like what grows roots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beyond just planting the tree.
Yeah, being like accountable
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
goes a long way.
And it's just, again, it goes back to, it goes back to on demand.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, and I want to repeat this, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be streaming right now. You absolutely should. You absolutely should. Something that I've been using this opportunity for myself is trying out different types of content within Marbles. I started playing around with Tilted. We're doing the podcast now. I'm working on building out classes, things like that.
Yeah.
And for everybody, that's going to be a different path. I'm not saying you should immediately start going trying all this crazy stuff. Just make sure that you are out there and you're trying to reach out in every way possible. But just know, again, that's going to change and start. You really need to start building a foundation on other platforms, and whether that for you, like for me, it's I'm going to focus on Twitter and YouTube. But for you, somebody else that might be Facebook, or that might be TikTok, or that might be, go with,
Whoever comes most naturally. I feel like you don't want to do so many. If you can, by all means.
You got to grow into it for sure, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just focus on the things I'm most comfortable with. And for a while, I wasn't comfortable with Discord. I'm getting better and better at it, and I'm blessed to have a Discord that moves, and to have Pixel's Discord that's always moving. It's pretty incredible, and I want to get involved in more Discords because that's such a great platform to reach people. It's amazing. It's a lot to take in though at once. That's why I have a hard time evolving with it and getting used to it.
Right.
I'm a Facebook kid, that's all I had when I was in college and stuff. So, but yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many places you can interact and keep the conversation going if you want to, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is you got to want to. And then, like you said, it's just you can expand into other platforms, you know, and sometimes like what you can do to pick that platform is look at your demographic and know who's in your community, right? And then you can start picking the platforms to talk more on and get involved more.
Yeah.
And start growing those roots there. And then just as you feel more comfortable, you start adding more, right? That's kind of what we do. So instead of internalizing and trying to find the negatives, you just find something to lean into with that energy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think that's the biggest thing is you just, instead of like if you're about to type on Twitter and like get angry, right? Or if you're angry and you're just internalizing, take that energy and try and project that into a new overlay or something for your stream, you know, something that you can spend time and just burn off those thoughts, and then you'll start thinking, and then you'll be like, oh, I'm glad I didn't write that, or I didn't internalize.
Just buckling down and doing something, you know, as opposed to like talking about why you're not doing it or something like that, you know.
Something a practice. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you done, Spooo?
No, yeah, I was done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, what I wanted to say is it just along those lines of what Mike was talking about too. Something that I've used when I get really angry or I get really frustrated with something, and of course, I don't want to project that out there in any way, you know. But what I'll do is I'll actually flip the camera on, and I will literally record myself bitching about whatever, and I will let myself do it. I will record the whole thing, and then I'll go back and watch myself so I can see how ridiculous I look. And seriously, because when I get truly angry, and it doesn't happen often, right? But when I get angry, I look stupid. All right, and that's to myself at least. And so what I'll do is I'll record it, whether it's 20 minutes. One time I did it for a half an hour, and then I'll play it back to myself and watch it, and I'll go, all right. And it kind of, what it does, the point is it kind of brings me back down though. It brings me back down to like, this is ridiculous. Like, what am I accomplishing with this?
Talk about self-awareness there. That's hardcore.
It gets it off your chest, you know, and then I go in and I delete the video and then I go do something productive.
I relate that to me. I relate that to Twitter for me. I'll write out tweets sometimes and then I'll be like, I'll read it over, you know, and be like, nope, I'm just not gonna tweet right now.
Yeah. If you have to question it, you shouldn't post it. That's a very hard and fast rule. So
very much so.
Yeah. But that all feeds right back into self-destruction too. Like if you're, man, you know, what you put out there, we've talked about this so many times. What you put out there stays out there forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can go and you can delete a tweet, but there's plenty of places that people can go look if they want to pull deleted tweets back up. Like it's just, once it's out there, it's out there.
Right.
Exactly.
And you've really got to stop and think before you do or say anything, how you're going to do it or how you're going to say it, kind of thing. So,
and that's something that can bring a lot of different attention to you to begin with, which can cause people to maybe attack you or whatever, which can just spawn a whole nother spiral of your thought process and just bringing you down more and more.
Yeah.
So it's only gonna, you know, posting things that are just so negative or angry, it's only just gonna start a spiral of that self-destruction that we talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
And then just wasted energy, and you know, just that whole spiral of going down and just like wasting and wasting and wasting, and then you get to the bottom and you're like, oh, like even if you do get to that point of like, oh man, you look back and like, holy crap, look at all the stuff I said, and then you can just continue digging deeper instead of taking that energy and just using it for anything creative towards what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now's the time to go, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, when during the Corona thing and the beginning of marbles, and now's the time to just do things. Like I personally, I've put together a schedule, and I really want to stick with it. This entire time I've streamed, I've never had a set schedule, and I think it's something that's gonna like really help me. You know, there's a couple days where I have special that people know about, but having a full set schedule is something that's just been eating me alive inside, and it's something I really want to do. And it's about buckling down and doing it, honestly.
What kind of drove you to go into that? Like to get that going?
I think it was the whole Corona thing. Honestly, I'm just sitting around like really just brainstorming and well, the schedule thing has always been on my mind to begin with, and I bring myself. That's one of those things I bring myself down. I'm like, man, why can't I just get on a schedule? This is going to help me so much, et cetera, whatever. And so yeah, it's just been eating me alive, I guess. And the Corona thing really help put it's the whole mix of things. So it's like
Right.
me eating myself alive, the Corona thing, the beginning of season marbles, and the growth of season 15 and the craziness and everything mixing together. I'm just like, now's the time. That's just how I feel internally. Now is the time.
It is.
Does it? Oh,
No, go ahead.
Mike,
Go
what
ahead.
were you
Go.
gonna say?
Go.
No, it was just a question because I go through this myself, and I was just wondering if Spooo goes through the same thing. It gets to the point where there's so much going on beyond your control that's negative. Like this whole thing with the virus right now, it's completely beyond anybody's control right now. You know, we can't help the businesses are being closed and all this other stuff. So it kind of gets to the point. And I just wondering if it was this way for you, Spooo, if it gets to the point where it's like, damn it, I got to do something big. Like I've got to do something that's been working on me for all this time, and I will feel better if I do this. Was it kind of that kind of thing?
100%. And I feel like for a while I wasn't streaming too much, and I'm in the middle of this move and everything, and like I was kind of in a downward like thinking time, I guess, you know. And then the whole Corona thing started happening, and I just, my mindset was like, I just want to, people want me around, so I'm just gonna start being around more and more and more. Just be there for people. It just, I don't know. You don't think about that a lot, but even if you have a small group of people in your stream, man, they want to be there and hang with you, and that means so freaking much. So you get into the mindset of getting used to a certain amount of people there, and then you're like, this is what I'm used to, or I deserve more, and then you lose those people because you're not giving them what they deserve by being there with you, which is just being there for them, honestly. And that's as simple as that. Whether it's 3 people or 100 people.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like this whole Corona situation has really been motivating to me as well. It's just like you see a lot of people shutting down and pulling back, and I feel like we're in an industry that is able to keep going, and you don't have to pull back if you don't want to. Of course, there's the excuses and the things that can happen that could cause you to pull back, but if you have the opportunity, to just continue pushing and keep going harder and be there for the people that can't do right now or are stuck at home and just have nothing to do, right? Yeah. And so that's the way I view it. That's why I was so adamant on getting the season 16 update out, is that I felt like we could still like push towards our cause during this time.
Right.
Yeah. People right now they're craving normalcy.
Yeah.
That they don't have. None of our lives are normal right now. Nobody's.
Right.
Nobody's. As full-time streamers though, we get the way I've been looking at it is, as full-time streamers, we get the benefit of having a more normal life than most, because our routine wasn't as badly interrupted.
Right.
It's definitely interrupted, but not as badly as some people's are. You know, some people they get used to that and they crave it. It's like, you know, I'm going out of the house every day to work, so I appreciate my home more, you know. So what that does is that puts a lot of extra responsibility on us to make sure we're there. Because by being with us, by being part of each of these communities that we've all formed, that helps keep a little bit of that sanity there.
Right.
Because you still get at least some social interaction with each other and with the streamer. And it's something that was a part of their lives before, but it's a much bigger part right now, because it's one of the very few things that, again, were not interrupted. You can't go, you can't go out to a movie theater, you can't go out to mini golf, you can't go bowling. There's like all these, all the sports are interrupted.
Yeah.
Like everything is interrupted. Luckily we weren't.
Right.
So again, that puts a lot of onus on us to be there and make sure we're doing right by our communities along the way.
Totally. It's well said.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Do we want to maybe get any questions from chat about any of this, or any
Yeah.
examples of like what brings you down, what's something that brings you up, what's a good stream, what's a bad stream? For me, it's all what I consider a bad stream is just if I'm not in the right mindset, and I can just feel that, because the energy that I give off is it's received by chat, and chat gives off the same energy. So a lot of it depends on what the streamer is feeling and how the streamer's acting. And I took this directly from when I was trained to be a manager at Waffle House, because my manager was like, it's like, if you come in a bad attitude, man, everyone's going to be in a bad attitude for the day.
Right.
It's all on you. Everybody's looking at you. So if you're having a good time, people are going to have a good time. If you're happy, people are going to be happy. You guide the stream in the way it feels. So it starts with you.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's it's for, I feel like for way too long, it was, for me, it was, I was focusing, I kind of got back into a mode, again, this is one of the reasons I set partnership to the side. Just focusing on numbers just a little too much. It's always been about my community, but I was so worried to make a move to the left or the right, because I was worried about how that was going to fluctuate the numbers, things like that. And I think I put, not that it was my only focus, it's just that I put too much emphasis on it. And to me, what really matters, what I'm really focusing on, and how I'm actually measuring success right now, is how busy my chat is beyond seeing play constantly in the chat. Like when I look over at my chat and I see just a wall of play and I'm not having any other interaction, I consider that bad.
Right.
When we start to hit those really amazing points in the stream where there's a lot of interaction, and then there's a lot of things that a lot of the comedy that I do is reactionary, so I've got to get the chat involved somehow. I've got to get them kind of gelling a little bit, and then I can start to play off of what they do.
Right.
So along those lines, like that's how I measure success, is once I get everybody kind of rolling. And some streams it's really easy. Some streams, people come in, they're ready to roll, they're excited, we're just going to launch and we're going to take off. And then some streams, even though it doesn't always necessarily have something to do with your audience, it's internal, like what Spooo was talking about. You feel like you're trying to drag them out of it.
Right.
And that to me is how I gauge success now, is how chat reacts and how we interact that day. And along those lines too, this goes back to something else we were talking about before we came on live. And shout out to my fellow streamers here. You guys have to remember that not every single stream, you're not going to hit it out of the park every single time.
Right.
Different streams have different dynamics. It could be something as dumb as Mercury's in retrograde or something like that, and nobody feels like talking that day. I mean, those things do happen. Sometimes they just want to be there. They just want to hang out. They just want to roll some marbles. They're really not feeling it that day. Just like you go through moods, so does your community.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so there's always that kind of swell. So along the lines of what we're talking about, everybody just keep that in mind, that not every stream is going to be like, oh my God, that was so amazing. And not every stream is going to be like, oh man,
Right.
I wish I could have done that better.
Sometimes you might feel like crap, and your chat brings you up. One person comes in and says, "Hey man, you're looking good today," and it's like, all right, it's gonna be a good stream. And other days, maybe it goes the opposite way. The streamer's having a great day, and somebody comes in like, "Hey man, I'm having a crappy day. I don't know, it's rainy outside. I fell in the mud, whatever."
Yeah.
And it's like, and then you cheer them up by doing whatever you do, making them laugh or sharing a similar experience or something. And just can go back and forth for sure.
Yeah.
I like what Cry said, or Cry. What brings me up is people following after participating in the chat the whole stream. I feel like that's a rare thing. You'll see somebody in chat like having fun talking to you the whole stream, and then at the end, like when you're ending or right before they leave, they follow, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's like nice, man. They actually, so many people follow right away,
Right.
but it's that feeling is like, that guy hung out all day, and he's like, yeah, I'll come back, and he hits the follow button.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a rare and a good feeling for sure.
Yeah. Earned. I call them earned follows.
Yeah.
It's like, some people, and some people will come right in and they'll follow immediately because they want to. It's like that's actually kind of a technique I use. I'll follow so that I can come back and check them out again.
Right.
But some people like they'll sit back. There was a conversation. I'm trying to remember exactly where we were looking at it not all that long ago within the community, but they were talking about like save sub only mode for the weekends and things like that. And I was reading the comment and I'm like, you should never use that in my opinion. And I understand that certain streamers have certain designated days for different things, and that part of it I get. But the second that you go into like sub only mode or follower only mode, anything like that, you cut off so many potential new community members.
Yeah.
When you do that,
Mostly the follow one. That one's tough.
Yeah.
Because I'm maxed. I talked about this before, I think. It's like people could be maxed out, and that means they can't follow you, which means they can't get involved, period.
Yeah.
Those are the people that have probably been around Twitch the longest, or at least a good amount of time, because nobody just hops on Twitch and follows 2,000 people right away.
Right.
Been around for a little while to build that up. So it's like those are the people you never know. They've
You're
been around.
cutting out hardcore Twitch people that are online a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, going what Sportscast said too, he just says Marbles gives the chance to interact with community, play music, drink beers, play games, and chat. And I mean, that's the whole package right there. You can just hang out, have a good time, play a game, not worry about maybe having a few drinks and playing poorly or something. You just rolling marbles and having a good time. It's just a great feeling for sure.
I actually have a Twidget said something, but how do you balance providing perks for those who are already invested in you with trying to provide for all? There's tons of ways. A lot of the people, you got to remember that a lot of the people that invest in you not because of perks. Especially like when you look at a lot of monster streamers, and their people are subbing to them because of the content they provide. And they're really the streamer. To say that the streamer isn't doing a whole lot more than that is kind of shutting down the value that they bring to their communities. Streaming is very much like subscribing to a streamer or something like that is very much value forward thinking. So, and by that, I mean, you've got to put the value out there first, and then they'll decide if they're going to support you.
Right.
That's got to get out there first. So going into sub only modes and things like that, definitely do not put that value forward at all. As a matter of fact, that cuts off further people that would want to support you. Now, if you want to build in additional little perks for them, you can do that. There's certain, like in my stream, there's certain redeemables that only subs can use, like the 2 Spooo commands I have in there, things like that. Those are sub only. Standard Sandstorm is sub only, that kind of thing. You can build in other little ways that are thank yous to them, extra little perks, without cutting off the entire community from being able to use something. Because that goes back again to the number one thing that people are going to give you is their time. Time is something they can't regain. And if that's going to be the case, if that's truly the case, then everybody needs to be involved. Everybody needs to be part of the fun. So again, when you go into things like sub only mode or even follower only mode, where somebody doesn't feel welcomed, that is a big issue. That can create massive issues, actually.
Right.
It's just a challenge. I think it's a challenge to grow at that point when you start turning those things on. Mm-hmm. It's like the basics of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And there's always, and again, if you're looking for the way I've always handled like the sub situation with my channel is again, it boils down, give them some perks. Give them some perks. Just make sure that while you're doing that, you're not cutting off everybody else from being able to be a part of the fun too.
Right.
Is the idea.
That's why I designed the redeemables in the channel to be redeemables for everybody. Like you redeem a race that everybody can play in.
Yeah.
Because I wanted everybody to participate. I didn't want it to be like to create an internalized system where people just are getting their own points to get their own prize, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And female gamer, by the way, I agree. Okay, and that's important for those kinds of circumstances. But we're talking more in general, like trying to use it as a tool to get more people to follow you, or getting, thinking that it's going to get a lot of people to sub to you, which by the way it doesn't. If you're always doing sub only mode, it doesn't work that way, because when you're cutting a group of people off, that group of people is now not going to be able to spend the time with you to figure out whether they want to sub,
right,
or whether they want to follow you even. Okay, that kind of thing. So hello, Arnold. So it's using that as a practice for that kind of thing, it doesn't really work. You cut yourself off more, especially at the stage that a lot of us are at. You cut yourself off way more than you gain trying to go that route with it. But yes, when you have something like, when you're dealing with something like a bot or something like that, oh sure.
Yeah, you turn on for 10 minutes, flush them out.
Yep.
And move on.
Then it becomes a defense mechanism at that point. But that's different. That's
what those tools are there for, is to really filter out, those situations.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You have these different layers to put up, like walls to put up. Okay, guys, there's crap going on. We're gonna go follower only mode, or now we gotta go sub because they're being weirdos.
Yeah.
and then you wait 30 minutes and then you pull back on it, because these services that are botting cost money and resources. So it's not going to be permanent. So use it that way. Don't turn on follower only mode and then leave it on for the rest of the stream. There's no need for that. You want to try and take it off. I remember when I used to get hit when I was growing, and I find this is another topic that I find very interesting. I find people get hit in the 40 to 60 range a lot. When you start hitting those numbers, definitely in the marbles community, like when I see people hitting those 40 to 60 numbers for the first time, people get hit by stuff with bots. And then they start learning that process, and it's like, oh my god! And you see them come in this, Discord. They freak out. It's okay, follower only mode. Get past this. Get your mods to report as much as possible, but you're not doing anything wrong, so keep moving past.
Yeah.
And just use those tools. Yeah.
Or not to talk to them directly, but just mention that, all right, man, my number's looking great. I'm getting all these marbles in here. All right, this is great. I'm going to get so many points, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, wait a second, I'm helping them? I'm out of here.
Yeah, exactly. They eventually figure that out. And what they're doing, what everybody has to remember, this botting craze that went on is just a new form of trolling.
Yeah.
And like any form of trolling, it's designed to get a reaction out of you. It's designed to get a reaction out of the streamer. And along the lines of what Mike said, like people start to get bigger numbers, and that's when they start to see some of those big hits. What they're doing is they're kind of targeting inexperienced streamers because they get a better chance to get that reaction.
Right.
Or a better chance to get them to do something stupid themselves on stream. And then that's how reaction videos end up on YouTube, that kind of thing. So, again, you just got to keep in mind that that's what they're going for. And that's why a lot of times when people first start to hit those numbers or hang out in that numbers, they're looking for a bigger audience, but an inexperienced streamer to go along with it.
Right.
That is something that I've actually and I say this with a lot of confidence because this is something I've actually lived through myself. So just keep in mind, everybody, that if that ends up being you, take a breath, stay calm. Don't make a bigger deal out of it than it really is, because it's not as big a deal as you think it is. And just roll with it. Just roll with it. Like Mike said, have your staff take care of it. Report everybody you can. Don't
let it ruin the flow.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Don't let it ruin the flow. Keep that stream flow going.
Mm-hmm. So.
And there's no need to carry those thoughts forward either. Like beyond the stream,
mm-hmm.
Right.
Taking that mental and just tweeting about it or anything like that. It's not worth it.
Yeah, that's one of those things that you grab a peer. Like I would grab one of you guys and be like, "Hey, man, I've been getting hit with a bot," and just start talking to somebody that can relate with it privately,
Right.
you know, and then you guys can talk through it, and then maybe if you come up with a really nice conclusion, you can formulate a nice tweet and put a tweet out about botting that's like, "Hey, maybe this is how I dealt with it. If you guys are having issues, this is how I deal with it." California Doc had said something a while ago I wanted to hit. He said, "Speaking of content, how much time and in what ways do each of you put in, and how do you prepare for your streams each day?" I'm probably the least prepared out of all three of us, and Jamie's probably most prepared all the time. When it comes to content creation, though, a lot of my stuff comes from my community, and I think that's an amazing way to grow a stream too. I just kind of brainstorm on stream a lot, or we're having fun and talking about whatever topic, and maybe an idea might arise, and I either act on that idea right then and there, or I write it down. I've got a little booklet, and I just write everything that pops into my head down, and then I'll look at it and brainstorm later or after the stream, and try to figure out something that I can do with it, whether it's a small little Grand Prix or tournament or a special thing to do on a map, or maybe a new song to play, anything. It's just that constant, in my mind, I'm just constantly brainstorming, especially when I'm streaming. And I think it's important to write things down while you're streaming, especially if you're talking with basically you're brainstorming with your chat all the time, or you can be anyway. And you never know what kind of ideas you'll draw from each other in general.
When you write something down, what's the longest you've left something down until you looked at it again and been like, I have a thing for this. Yeah,
I still have stuff written down.
I think that
a year or two ago, you know.
I was gonna say, I think my personal record right now is 2 years.
Yeah.
not that I've never looked at it again, but like acted on it or finally deleted it. It's
right.
Like, yeah, there are all the time. Like there's nothing wrong, I guess, with having more ideas than you have time for. I would consider the opposite to be the problem. If I had more time on my hands than I had ideas to enact, that would mean that growth had stopped.
Right.
It's something Pixel has said before too. He said, your brain can be so full of stuff, and you got to get it out somehow, or else you're never going to fall onto one thing and work on that one thing. So if you have all these ideas in your head, at least write them all down, and then you can organize it and formulate what takes priority over others, and clear your brain of that cloudedness.
Yeah.
I think it's so important. And the reason I asked you that is because if you like, there's nothing that you need to stress about when you write things down. Just because you write it down doesn't mean you need to do it right away or come to it next week or whatever. Like, you could just leave it. And the fact that you wrote it down is the greatest first step that most people don't take. And it's okay to just leave it and never even deploy on it, because by writing it down, it gets it out of the way is the biggest thing. Is just get it out of the way so you can keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And then you can always come back and read and be like, oh yeah, this one was good. Let's try and do something with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just constantly pouring your ideas and going over them in your head, or maybe talking to other people and brainstorming with other people, and yeah, it's ideas. Just always try to have ideas. That's content creation for me. I'm just always trying to think of something. And when Marbles came out, it was like the titles of the maps were like, what can I do with this title of the map? How can I make this more fun? And I took the title and kind of made a little adventure around it. And I still think about that stuff. Like, anytime a map is out there, I'm like, can I do something with this? What can I do with this? So Castle Siege is going to be a good one.
Yeah,
Jamie, did you want to answer the question?
I sure can. For me, it's now, and this includes a lot of typical things, and that we all do in the morning. But I know myself, and I know how I can function best during the stream. So my actual pre-show routine is about 2 hours before the stream begins. And it covers, and by that I mean all the basics too, like even with the way my diet is handled now. So, it's shower. I know I've talked about this with the two of you. I haven't said it a lot of this. We've talked about a lot of this with chat, but it's literally shower, makeup, fix breakfast, and eat a good breakfast before I get started, because I really need that, because I don't want my stomach rumbling or anything
You
crazy
need that
like
energy
that while I'm trying
too,
to
you know?
stream. It's really
Yeah.
distracting. And then all of my pre-show stuff. So I literally do like my pre-show. To those of you out there that are familiar with like what you do when you're prepping your sound and video and all that before like a theater production, I follow a very similar checklist. I actually have a full checklist that I do. So it's make sure the Go XLR profile is set and I've checked everything there. Make sure that OBS, double check the camera, make sure the zoom is set correctly. Am I getting too much focus distortion out of the camera? Like it's literally like about an hour of that is just pre-show prep technically in front of what's in front of me. And we, you know, so I make sure that that's all set and ready to go, so that by the time I hit go live and I'm in pre-show, I can sit here, I can relax a little bit, I can actually talk with chat, throw a couple little fun things in the chat, let them know that I'm here and we're doing final prep. Right down to the little stuff like making sure I change my profile on Twitter to say go now live. If I have a tweet prepared, I'll throw another one of those out just as we're getting started, that kind of thing. But every little nitty gritty thing,
Right.
I have down in a checklist, and I just boom, 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 right down the line. Now that I can, with the classes, now that I can show everybody on screen some of the things I do, I'm going to actually be sharing some of that too. But a pre-show checklist, especially when you're rushed, like some people will have something like that and they're rushed. Like say, instead of having an hour, they've only got like 20 minutes to try and get ready.
Right.
But having something like a pre-show checklist like that is critical at that point, because that's how you can go through and make sure that you're still hitting all the points that you need to hit.
Right.
You know, did I change my game category over to just chatting before I got started? Did I remember to hit go live? Did I remember, here's a big one for me, is remembering to send out over Discord that I'm going live, because I still do that manually because I change it each day right now. So
It
all
feels
that
so
little
good
stuff
to get a
is
majority of that checklist like a half an hour before the stream starts, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's just
Yeah.
like, all right, whew.
yeah.
I'm like ready in 20, 30 minutes to just hit live and be there and go, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, it does allow you to move quickly when you need to, but some of that extra prep time for me, Doc, just so you know, is because, and you're a member of my community, so you know how I am with this. I've changed my mindset, so that allows me to come in a lot more relaxed than if I was rushed trying to come right up to pre-show. So if you come in with that more gentle mindset, it makes you more interactive. Going back to like what we were talking about with interacting with chat, it makes you a lot more interactive. Like my just chatting a lot of times now, sometimes it's short, but a lot of times we're just chatting before we even roll the first marble for an hour now. The just chatting sessions are getting longer and longer and longer. And if that's the case, mentally, I need to make sure that I'm prepared for that. And again, if I come in all tense and rushed, it's not going to be the same as if I come in with a much smoother mindset and I've allowed myself that time to get prepared.
Totally.
Yeah, that's a good thing to do for sure. Just have a chat with your community before getting rolling. It's something, I'll turn on the stream and I'll be sitting there and I'll kind of have that anxious feeling of like, man, I got to do something. I got to do something. But like sitting there and talking it's fine. That is doing something, And I think like you said, going into a stream with a relaxed mindset is so much more helpful. It's not easy for everyone for sure, but like, maybe there's something. Is there anything you do before stream? Like, do you get anxious before stream? Do you like do breathing techniques or anything, or is there anything that like puts you in the right mindset? I guess either of you guys.
I always get
Or
anxious.
Just kind of like
I get
same.
anxious just
like
because,
I get really anxious
because I find I get anxious because my stream, I don't like my stream isn't my core thing, right? The company and the game is, right? So I do
Right.
things before stream and after stream, and my stream is like my hangout zone, I guess. It's just like
Yeah.
where I chill, I go live, I don't care, but I always get anxious before the stream. I don't know why. I just do. Because once I click live, it's like, all right, we're live, we're doing it.
Yeah.
No problem.
on air, man. It's like the radio show on air. Don't say anything screwed up.
Yeah. I don't get nervous at all before streams anymore. But if I don't bring at least a little bit of anxiety before the stream, that is usually a really big indicator to me that it's time to change something, that I need to build something else new. I've actually, that to me, and again, that goes to streamer know thyself. If there's no nerves or butterflies whatsoever, it's time for me to look at the content and say it's time to build something new in. I think it's time to take another step forward. Because for me, I so much as change a button on my stream deck and I get nervous because I'm gonna screw it up about 10 times before my muscle memory gets clicked into place. Like I'm hitting all the time, and it's part of the fun, by the way. That's part of the fun. But there should be at least a little bit of nerves there every single time before you go live. And if not, to me, that's always an indicator again that I need to do something a little bit different.
That you've peaked, right?
Yeah, it gives you that little bit of excitement. It gives you that little bit of extra quiet excitement that you really should have.
True.
And again, like along the lines, and this is just the actor in me, like you're talking about like a routine. I actually do vocal warm-ups just like before, like before I would do a live show or something like that, just to help keep my voice in shape. Number one, it is healthy for my throat. Number two, again, it's just kind of that, it's that little bit of comfort before I get started that I've gotten some things ready to go. So
now here's a question. Do you record it and then watch it before the stream?
The vocal warm-ups?
The vocal warm-ups? No. No, that I do not. I mean, there's definitely
that might push you to the next level.
Yeah, there's definitely techniques that I use where I do record myself when I'm setting up equipment, things like that. Or when sometimes I feel like I'll watch a VOD and feel like I'm out of practice, like looking at the camera when I'm talking or things like that. And I'll actually like do a practice round where I do record myself. It's just talking to the camera or whatever the case may be. Yeah. But yeah, as a part of the pre-show, no, I think that I think that would feel a little extreme to me at this stage. I did, Mike, I did so much of that when I first got started because, again, theater experience here, but I knew what the rules were. Like I knew how to practice to be a better public speaker. And like, even with all the practicing I did very early on, I'd go back and I'd watch VODs and I'd be like, oh, why am I doing that? Why am I looking over to the left there? Like there's nothing even over to my left in that scene. And so I taught myself a lot of the recording, like along the lines of what you just said. A lot of my self-teaching now does come from going back and watching VODs.
Right.
That's really like so many people tell me I can't stand watching myself. Well, then you're gonna have to get over that one. That's one you do. Get over.
I agree, and I think it's important to it's gonna help you as a streamer to be comfortable and confident with yourself, big time. And I just wanted to jump in and mention I feel like you and I are we've been spoiled, Jamie, because we both grew up doing theater and performing and whatever like that. So we're kind of used to that. We're used to seeing ourselves sing and dance and be stupid, whatever. And a lot of people aren't used to that. And that when they feel awkward, that can go back to being a self-destructive type feeling where they're like, oh, I feel weird doing this. I'm not going to do it anymore. I feel weird doing this. I'm not going to do it anymore. Rather than just being like, I'm just going to do it. Just gonna have a good time and I'm just gonna do it. And if you're having fun and you're having a good time, like people are either gonna join you or say, I don't like this, I'm leaving. So I don't know. It's just important to have that confidence and just have fun.
Yeah, it's when you go into that, like if somebody really has trouble watching themselves or they start getting really self-conscious and uptight and anxious as they're watching their own VODs, a lot of that before you even hit the play button on your VOD, you've got a lot of that is just mindset. It is a combination of mindset and learning by doing at the same time. So you got to go in with the mindset of this might not look good to me, but I'm going to look at this so that I can look at the little quirks, things that I'm doing. One of the most interesting things I think I was ever told about this practice was that a streamer was telling me that they were clicking with their mouth and they never realized they were doing it. And it's not something they do in real life, so they didn't think about it. But because they were nervous on camera, they would go all the time. Right. And that was something that they had to train themselves to not do. My big thing and it's been something I have done my whole life, is actually, it looks like I'm rolling my eyes. I'll actually look above the camera instead of looking at the camera when I'm talking. So that was something that I've worked really hard to train myself out of. Another recent little quirk I have now that I have this new chair, and I didn't realize I was doing this either. I was actually doing it during my podcast with Mike last night, was I'll sit here and I'll bounce. And I'm not bouncing myself, I'm bouncing my legs is what I'm doing. And all of a sudden, like, I'll be sitting there, I'm having this serious conversation with Mike, and I'm doing this. Right? And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why did and I know what I'm doing. So now I consciously, like, I've been doing it this morning too, is consciously trying to just plant my feet, which is ergonomically better anyway for long term. But, you know, just plant my feet so that I'm not sitting there doing this the whole time while I'm trying to talk to somebody, you know. But you will, and what you have to remember too is that you can't, for those of you that are more experienced out there, you can't stop doing this practice, by the way. You do need to go in and watch yourself once in a while, because you might get rid of one quirk, and then, like the bouncing I was just talking about, you might pick up something else along the way, because the more you stream, the more comfortable you become. It's like it's less about performing, and it becomes more about performing for your family, like you would in your living room or something like that, because you get to know your community gets to know you. But that also means familiarity. Also means that at times you might pick up some new little habit that you weren't aware of that you might want to eliminate on camera, because it's what seems okay to you while you're live. When you're go back and watch yourself, you may realize that might be something that doesn't quite work for your content.
Right. That's a good one. I mean, like, yeah, I'm definitely one of those people. I don't like watching myself at all. And I struggle doing it a lot, but I've done it, and I try to do it every so often. The main reason I do it is for audio, just to make sure like the audio is good. I mean, I listen to myself all the time when I'm streaming anyways, but just that's my biggest thing. I mean, like, I really dislike clicking keyboards and stuff, so I try to make sure I don't project that, which I know sometimes
it happens.
But yeah, it's one of my biggest things that I watch for, because I don't like dirty audio. That's my biggest peeve, because my ears are sensitive, so I know other people out there are sensitive as well, so I try to be cognizant of that. But yeah, that's one. There's so many tactics to watching your VODs back that give you so much good information about not only yourself but the quality of your stream.
Right, yeah. And then you can figure out what, write those issues down that you see from your VOD, and then, like we said before, prioritize what's most important to you or to the viewer or both, and maybe that's the first thing on your list that you need to fix about your stream.
Yeah, it's really, again, like once you start being less conscious about it or less self-conscious about it, and you start to enjoy the process, the things that you learn about yourself, it's really fascinating. It's really fascinating actually watching yourself do the things that you do. You do things, it's like having a constant mirror to watch yourself in.
Right.
And you shouldn't do it all the time. Like, there's other things that absolutely need to be done, but it's good once in a while to get some perspective of where you're at. I had to go digging through some old clips because of a project that I'm working on. They had asked me for some good video clips that were me.
Right.
And I went back and found clips. Mike, I didn't even get a chance to tell you about this. I went back and found clips all the way back to when I first started rolling marbles.
Yeah.
Like clips people had taken from dunks and things like that. And it absolutely blows me away how far things have come on a personal level. And again, I attribute a lot of that to being introspective, looking at what I was doing and going, I could improve this, or I could change this. Or you want to talk about like having trouble with dirty audio. I just, like, some of my audio, like back when I first got started, because I was in that huge cavernous room and I didn't have any soundproofing or anything like that. I'm like, oh my God, I can't listen to this anymore, because there was so much extra reverb and all that. But the point I'm trying to make is that like from doing that, like, again, when I go back, like, I'm even considering making a YouTube video out of it, like just showing the clips from when I first got started.
Yeah.
to where how much improvement has been made up till now, both equipment wise, things I've learned, and how I react to things and how I behave myself. It's unreal, the growth. The growth is just unreal. And that's again, being introspective, watching those VODs and looking at what you do and making those little changes is a lot of that.
Yeah.
Is a lot of that.
It's just another reason why it's so important to think of this as a marathon, because you personally take so long to evolve and like to grow up and learn all these things that you do. You just have to keep absorbing and keep moving forward, because like this is not a 2-week game. This is not a 1-month game. Like this is years in the making, right? And because you're going to learn so much along the way. And I think it's so important to just constantly be learning off yourself and keep moving forward, because it's so easy to internalize and get negative on yourself and look at all of the stuff that you're doing and say, this is what I'm doing wrong, instead of looking at this is what I'm doing right.
Yeah.
Right. I was just going to say, because if you get into like a self-destructive mindset, you're just halting that slow process of building up. You're just halting that, and you're starting to tilt it down instead. Yeah. So
it's I've always really enjoyed, Spooo, your philosophy on like how you give advice and things like that, and because it's such the way you give advice to others is so important. Like while we're talking about introspection and all this, it's so important to do the same thing with yourself. And that is, again, along the lines of what Mike just said too, make sure that while you're being critical of yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that, all right, while you're being critical of yourself and what you do, make sure that you're also enjoying the things that you're doing correctly, and you continue to do them or do them more.
Right.
There is definitely a balance there, and that's part of what will also help keep you from going down a road to like self-destruction. If you keep watching your VODs and all you focus on are the things that need improvement, even if you're taking a healthier mindset towards it, it can still start to wear on you over time.
Totally.
But you need to look at what you're doing and go, man, that's great. That's not so great. So enjoy the things, but definitely take those moments to enjoy the things that you're doing correctly as well. It's like, man, I nailed that, or man, that was really good. I want to do more of that, because by also, how do I want to put this? By also investing in the things you're doing right, that also helps bring more joy while you might, because there are going to be some things about yourself that you're going to try to fix that are going to be very tough for you to do. Some habits break very, very hard. And so while make sure you're reveling while you're doing some of those struggles.
I think that's super important too, because if you're watching your VOD, let's say certain parts, maybe like for me, I played a ukulele song, I want to watch that, see how it sounded, whatever, or maybe one of the special maps, whatever. And I think it's super important to sit there and be like, man, look at chat. Chat really loved this. I'm having a good time on there. Like this is great. I either need to do this a little bit more, or what can I do to make it a little bit better, or just to notice those things and get that into a normal routine. Like the whole Spooo thing, that just started out as something random, and then now it's become such a staple and routine in my marble streams. And that just sprouted from doing it, watching the VODs, seeing the reactions, building on top of it, and things like that. Just over time.
Yeah, because VODs have chat.
Yeah. I always look at chat reaction from VODs, man.
Oh, yeah.
Probably more than I watch the VOD. Like, how is chat reacting to what I'm doing?
Something that you just brought up, Spooo, too, that strikes me is like you were talking about the ukulele. And something that I can really recommend for people to do is to lean very heavily. Like when you're looking at the things you're doing right, things that you want to do more of, lean very heavily into those little things that make you unique. As a matter of fact, I would go so far as to say Spooo is the only ukulele player I've ever joined in with on a stream, things like that. So lean extra heavily into that, like develop those kinds of skills even further.
Lean into your personal creatives.
Yeah. I was gonna say, bring your outside content into your streaming content. Like that's music has just always been a thing in my life, and theater and things like that. So I mean, you see it in my stream. I play, I sing, I do theater type things with maps, and that's all come from my outside life.
Yeah.
And how I grew up and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, those things that make you unique are also what will make you more endearing to your community. You know, they're going to love you for
Connections.
those kinds
Yeah.
of things, those connections. Yeah, if you've, you know, and again, it can be something as simple as, you know, how you communicate, as well as those things that are up in your face, like the ukulele or my kaleidoscope scenes, or, you know, anything like that. Like those are things that you really, again, focus very heavily on those, because it's those are some of the things that people love you for the most.
It's like
Little
small
insights
things
into
that
you.
stick with people. Small
Yeah.
things, and
Yeah.
they remember you. Kind of like what Shai just said with
Daveness,
Daveness. You know,
yeah.
there's lots of streamers out there that have this small little thing, and it's just like, I know this guy because of this one thing, you know, or maybe a couple of things, and it's important to have that.
Yeah, it's your own little
Stick in
unique
people's
element to the
minds.
stream.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's so important.
Even if it's just saying something, just saying a small little phrase and saying it a lot and getting people used to that small little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild. We're at an hour, guys. We didn't
Yeah.
really address much questions. We just went.
Yeah.
I actually have the new ask a question in chat you can redeem for 25 pixel points. And it's actually a really good way to manage the questions. But we could have used that if we want. If anybody wants to ask some questions last minute, you can ask in chat also. It's just, I found it really helpful to manage the questions that way, because it's like a queue. But if nobody has anything like that, yeah. The app's not live yet. Jesus.
Like this.
Exactly.
Yeah, like that, Spooo. Like that. You got it.
But yeah, guys, thanks so much for coming out. I think that was a really good chat.
Yes,
It was a good
Really good
chat.
chat.
I
Yes,
have
it
homework.
was.
Hey?
Everybody needs to
Homework.
find somebody that they've never met before in the Marbles universe and just find a way to compliment them somehow. One compliment, boost everybody up this weekend, and then hit boost mode and boost for real. One boost mode race this weekend and compliment one stranger in the Marbles universe.
Spooo
That's your
homework. That's the Spooo homework, guys. All right. Thanks so much for coming out, guys. Thanks, Standard Damage and Spooo, as always.
Thank you.
And we'll
Thanks,
see you
everybody.
guys
Thank you.